Users of Reddit share their worst cheating stories. Let's dive in. Story 1. We're both in our 30s. Let's call her Sarah. We were in a long-distance relationship for nearly 3 years, built on years of friendship. It felt serious. We traveled together, stayed close, talked about the future. She was even supposed to meet my teenage son on an upcoming trip. But over the past year, things began to shift. Her communication dropped off at night. Calls stopped after 8 p.m. She said she was overwhelmed, depressed, and thinking about going back to therapy. I gave her grace, especially knowing she had shared past trauma with me. I assumed her distance was emotional, not deceptive. I asked her several times if there was someone else. She denied it every time, said I was overthinking, that she just needed space. But the patterns didn't add up. She only called during certain hours. Never FaceTimed from her surroundings. Vague answers. Sudden mood changes. I started questioning myself, thinking maybe I was just being insecure. At the time, I was finishing nursing school while working as a firefighter. My plan was to bring us closer, either by moving her to live with me or relocating back to her city. I believed we were building a future. We were still very much involved. I flew down regularly. We were physically intimate. Just 2 weeks before everything ended, we had sex. I have texts from her saying she wished I hadn't gotten a vasectomy and that she wished she could have had my baby. We were planning future trips, celebrating my graduation, and talking about next steps. It wasn't distant or cold. It was still active, still personal, still real on my end. What I didn't know was that she had already moved in with another man. She was helping raise his daughters, living in his home, while still keeping me in her life. She never told me. Not once. It wasn't until I started applying pressure, asking about the inconsistencies, the distance, and the emotional change, that she finally responded with what would be her last message. I'm just going to have to inform you now, and going forward, that I am no longer interested in communicating with you at all. As you have noticed over this past year, I have lacked communication on all levels from past issues, and also respecting my current relationship. Please respect my space, as I would like to give my full attention to where I am currently in life and my relationship with my man. That was the first time she admitted she was in a relationship. Until then, she had gaslit me for a year, lied by omission, sent me videos claiming she was with her mom, when those same videos were actually her cooking for his kids. Easter dinner, everyday life. She had been sending those to me while pretending everything was normal. After she blocked me, I started connecting the dots. I found his social media. I recognized the car, the house, the timeline. It all matched. I had unknowingly seen pieces of this man before and didn't realize it. Now I did. I wrote her one final message. Calm. Direct. Not angry. I let her know, without naming names, that I had figured everything out. I didn't need to ask any more questions. I had the answers. She probably told him I was just some crazy ex who wouldn't let go. Maybe he saw one of my messages. Maybe she realized I wasn't going to stop asking questions, and she sent that final message to protect her story. I don't know. I really don't. All I know is that we were still active, still connected, and then she suddenly pulled the plug. I also understand the situation she was in. She's 36, was living at home with her parents, and suddenly had someone nearby offering stability. He had a home. He was physically present. It was convenient. I don't think she set out to hurt me. I think it just happened and kept going until it spiraled. But even if it didn't start with malice, she still could have told me the truth a year ago. She had chances. She chose silence instead. And that's where the real betrayal sits. She never apologized. Never admitted the truth. Never said you're right or I'm sorry. Just daily gaslighting followed by a final message to cut me off, then silence. She blocked me everywhere and never looked back. Not a single word of closure. And I know she's living with that man. I know exactly what it is now. So when I wrote my final message, I framed it as if I had known since 2024. That I had seen everything, stayed quiet, and let her run with the lie. I figured that was the only way to take my power back without blowing it all up. I didn't need to expose her. I just needed her to know that I saw through her. Because deep down I did. I just didn't know where the pieces fit, until now. I could send the screenshots. Let him see exactly what she was doing just weeks ago. The messages from a week ago saying she wanted to come see me in July. The ones from 2 weeks ago saying she wished she could have my baby. That way, I don't look like some crazy ex from a year ago, and he won't be left completely in the dark either. But part of me wonders if silence is more powerful. Story 2. My wife and I have been together for nearly 18 years, married for almost 14. We have fulfilling careers, a wonderful family of 5, and a deeply connected, intimate life. However, back in March, I began to notice a shift in her behavior in the bedroom. We've always had a strong physical connection, usually intimate around 5 times a week, and she's been open-minded and engaged. No complaints in that area until recently. The shift was subtle but concerning. She became much harder to please, and she started criticizing things that used to work for her. It felt like she had emotionally checked out. A few years ago, we had introduced a new adult toy into our relationship, and she became so attached to it that she lost interest in other forms of stimulation. I've always supported self-pleasure, but recently, I started noticing patterns. It seemed like she was using the toy every time I was away at work. I could almost predict how the night would go. What followed was often emotionally distant, perfunctory intimacy. There was no foreplay. She would expect me to switch on instantly and perform. I asked her gently if she'd been using the toy while I was away. She denied it and said she only used it when I was home. I knew that wasn't true and was alarmed by the extent she went to hide it. She even took a photo of the drawer it was stored in to make sure she put it back exactly as it was, presumably to prevent me from questioning her again. I've always been open about my support for her autonomy in this area, so the secrecy confused me and raised alarm bells. This led to a larger argument, and during it, she accused me of being paranoid and gaslighting her. In the heat of the conversation, she said, "Well, maybe I'll just cheat on you." That statement hit me hard. It had never been uttered in our entire relationship, and it left a deep wound. I began connecting the dots. I remembered that I had been removed from her location sharing on multiple occasions over the past few months. We initially used location sharing for convenience, checking distances while out, planning for events, coordinating pickups, etc. It wasn't about monitoring, but her cheating comment changed my perspective. I noticed that after I was removed, I would resend the request, and she would accept it without mentioning the change. She's not very tech-savvy, so I would expect her to ask what was going on if something like that happened by accident. I casually asked her about it, and she said our 6-year-old must have done it on the iPad. However, when I checked her phone, I saw that location sharing had been manually turned off in her messaging settings, a process far too involved for a child. Then something unexpected happened. I have a voice recorder that I use at work for meetings and notes. By what I can only describe as pure coincidence, it fell out of my gym shorts when I was getting something from her car. I later reviewed the files and came across something disturbing. There was audio of 2 car doors opening and closing, followed by the unmistakable sound of a man moaning and what sounded like intimate activity. I replayed it dozens of times. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I reached out to her, expressing my alarm and asking for an explanation. She came home from work, but refused to listen to the recording. In my attempts to cue up the right part of the audio, I accidentally deleted it, a mistake that devastated me. Still, I knew what I had heard. Her refusal to listen only intensified my suspicions. She wasn't crying. She seemed more panicked than remorseful. I pressed her on that, but she seemed relieved that I no longer had the file. We had a trip planned that weekend and went away together. Intimacy was intense, but something felt off. She was very focused on moving past this and making sure we were okay. I wanted that too, but I couldn't shake the memory of the audio. It haunted me every night, and I cried more than I ever have. On the night of the argument, I got no sleep. I noticed her phone was lighting up frequently, and I saw she'd received a follow request from a male co-worker at 2 a.m., the same night as our major fight. I asked her about it and explained why the timing concerned me. She was visibly shaking, which made me feel even more unsettled. Then came another blow. On Father's Day weekend, I overheard her say something out loud while she was home alone that made my heart sink. "Why are you so swollen? I just saw your Reddit." I recorded it and played it back for her. At first, she claimed it had been sent to me, but I pointed out that wasn't the case. She got angry. Later, she insisted it wasn't her voice and accused me of fabricating things. I pressed her to explain who it was, and she refused to listen to the recording. She had an emotional outburst, yelling and physically lashing out at pillows. I suggested we go to marriage counseling and bring everything into the open. I mentioned possibly sharing the audio with a therapist. She demanded I delete it immediately, and I did. Since then, she's held firm to her innocence. She checks in frequently to make sure I'm moving forward and doesn't want to revisit what she calls false accusations. She recently asked if I still wanted therapy. I told her no, not right now. I said that as long as I have no reason to doubt her, we're fine. To summarize, I have no definitive proof, but something doesn't feel right. She's lied in the past, but never like this. She insists she couldn't possibly hide something like this given our daily routines. Everything seems great at home, yet I can't ignore these experiences. She has an addictive personality and a history of mental health challenges. She's overcome so much, and I worry that she may have replaced one unhealthy escape with another. When someone craves a certain feeling badly enough, they might go to extraordinary lengths to get it. Story 3. I am seeking everybody's perspective. I uncovered that my wife was not being truthful with the day before and the day after her trip to see her mom. As a result, I hired people to look into it. What we found is that she got an Airbnb with her boyfriend. We are now 55, but they had a 3-year relationship when she was 15 and he was 18. I take full accountability as I've had a problem with alcoholism and also children that are sick. I've been somewhat absent and not a good partner, but faithful. Here is what happened. She spent the night with her boyfriend in the Airbnb on Monday night and then took care of her mom the next 3 nights and then went back to a new Airbnb on Friday night. I asked professionals that looked over it that as both nights recorded showing them together. What she tells me is nothing but kissing happened the first night, and the last night he touched her with her pants off, and she touched him with his pants on. Then she broke out in guilt and tears and stopped everything before moving to the next steps. It was described as an emotional affair that resulted in spending time together with her ex from 30 years ago, a great time to bond together through their challenges. My wife is one that is a very wonderful lady, and I was shocked by finding this out. What is interesting about the man is he has been divorced for 4 years and has not had a relationship or a sexual encounter. He is described as a good man that would not do something with a married lady. So, all I know is they had 2 nights together in a bed with a minimum of kissing and slight touching, the worst being her with her pants down. The affair has 100% stopped, and they have not communicated since then. She had no prior affairs and has not had an affair for 2.5 years. Story 4. I, F39, and my husband, M41, have been married for almost 17 years and have 3 kids together, F13, M11, and F9. Like the title says, my husband cheated on me by getting full-body massages with a happy ending. He lied/hid it from me and bought nude pictures of women online. This was going on for about 1.5 years before I found out. I lost my wallet on a Saturday last month and went to look for it Sunday, but could not find it. I remembered I had an AirTag in it, so I followed the AirTag. It led me to a hotel parking lot where I instantly noticed a familiar car. My husband's car was parked there. I know his license plate letters, when he was supposed to be at work. I messaged him and said, "Hey, I think I left my wallet in your car. Can you go check?" He messaged 20 minutes later that he had parked at his work's faraway parking lot and would check soon. I knew that was a lie since I was parked right next to his car at the hotel. So I waited a half hour for him to get back to his car before I decided to leave. I went home and grabbed the extra car keys to his car so I could grab my wallet and go home. I decided to leave the AirTag from my wallet in his car so I could track him. He happened to video call me when he got back to his work. I looked at the background of the video and saw he was walking through his work. I confronted him and said, "Hey, I found my wallet in your car. What were you doing at a hotel when you were supposed to be at work?" He knew he was caught and immediately started apologizing. He said he made a huge mistake and didn't want to lose me. He tried to explain, but I told him no, I don't want to hear it, and I hung up. I waited for him to get home from work so I could ask him a million questions. He told me everything I think. His excuse was he was stressed and needed to get full-body massages with a happy ending. He said this had been happening for about 1 year. I was completely shocked and stunned. I was somewhat relieved to know that he was not having an emotional relationship with anyone and that it was a random lady every time he got a massage and no oral or sex, so he says. That still did not make it okay. I know that my husband and I have been stuck in a dead bedroom for years. I thought he had a low libido and did not want sex. I was furious and jealous when I found out he was getting the massages. I have a high libido and wanted to be the one touching him and giving him massages. I felt so betrayed. I had trusted him to stay faithful when I myself was struggling to stay faithful. So many things came to my mind. Do I leave him? Part of me was so hurt and wanted to just leave. I wanted to pack up the kids and move out of state to start over. I wanted to just forget about my husband. The other part of me wanted to stay and try to work through this somehow. We talked for what seems like 2 days straight. We communicated more in those 2 days than I think we have in the past 17 years. We told each other everything that we had been afraid to tell each other for so long. We each were worried about what the other would have thought if confronted about the dead bedroom. I told him I had a lower libido once I got pregnant with our first kid. Then again with the second and third. After, it didn't really come back much. Especially since we had 3 young kids running around. I was exhausted. Since he worked all the time, I felt like I was by myself raising the kids. I understand he had to work a lot to support us, and I am truly grateful for that. However, I still felt alone. He didn't help out much as far as changing diapers, or even giving me a break from the kids. I mean, I had 3 C-sections, and he rarely helped while I was recovering from that. I told him I noticed my libido came back high around 2 years ago. I thought about sex a lot and would masturbate a lot. When I tried to watch couples porn, it just made me sad, and I felt that he rarely wanted sex, unless he had a few drinks. That seemed to be the only time that we would be intimate and have sex. It happened only when he was drunk, and I started to think maybe I was taking advantage of him. I told myself I would not initiate sex if he had more than 2 drinks. Well, I realized he'd always have more than 2 drinks. So I just stopped initiating sex. After finding out he cheated, like I said, we talked a lot. We talked about anything and everything. Apparently I was wrong about him having a low libido, and he wanted me all along. I didn't know. The more we talked, I learned he had a high libido and masturbated a lot. It's been about a month since my husband cheated. Since then, he has cut up all his credit and debit cards except for one that we share. I can view every transaction and everything he buys. He has vowed to change and give up drinking. Apparently he's been drinking more than I thought. He would drink after work and then drive home drunk. He would hide how much he was drinking, so I didn't know. So far he's been sober a month. He has also deleted all social media apps except for Facebook. He was viewing and buying nude pictures from influencers. I am still working on trusting him again, and have kept an AirTag in his car for the last month. I put it in his car the day he cheated, and left it in there. He knows and said he will do whatever it takes for me to trust him again. My husband and I are going to try to make it work. So far I have seen so many changes. He's more attentive and loving. When I talk to him, I feel like he hears me. I found things like calling insurance companies for medical bills and cell phone company had been stressing him. So we have been tackling them together. I called the insurance to figure out the HSA account, and he tackled the ATT phone reimbursement claim. He says that that's been helping relieve some stress. It also doesn't hurt that we have been very intimate again. I swear we have had more sex in this past month than we have had in the past 10 years. We are communicating so much more, and he says he's happy with our sex life, and I am very happy as well. I know sex doesn't solve things, but I feel like that was a big disconnect in our marriage. Before we would maybe have sex maybe 3 to 5 times a year, and now it's been every few days. I love that I can put my hands all over him all the time, and he does the same with me. I feel like we are teenagers all over each other. I feel like in our old relationship, we took each other for granted. Well, that relationship has died, and we are starting a new relationship together. We have started taking showers together almost every day, and it is amazing. So many things have changed, but I feel it had to for the better for our marriage to work. The old relationship kind of had to die and start anew. I hope this marriage works out for us. I suppose time will tell. Story 5. I, 26F, work in corporate HR, and this is something I never thought I'd admit out loud, let alone post online. But here I am. I developed a huge crush on someone at work, someone who, as I later found out, is 37M and married. And no, when it all started, I had no idea he was married. At the beginning, I didn't even know who he was. He was just a familiar face I'd see around the office, the kind you recognize but never actually interact with. One day, he messaged me on Teams asking about a project we are about to work on together, and if he could swing by my desk. I was busy and had no clue who he was. His Teams profile had no photo, so I told him I'd reach out later. The next day, he tried to approach me in person. I didn't realize he was the same person from Teams, so I awkwardly ignored him and kept walking. Day 3, something clicked. I saw him walking by and I decided to ask him if he was the one who'd messaged me. Let's call him Sam, not his real name. He said yes. That was really the first proper interaction. After that, I once passed by his desk, not knowing he sat by that area, and he'd initiate small talk, mostly work-related. Since I'm in HR, he'd sometimes come by to ask the most random questions. He was one of those people who would always say hi if he saw you and start some light conversation. He was quiet, kind of introverted but always polite. Something about that calm, composed nature started pulling me in. Slowly but surely, I found myself more drawn to him. I started dressing up more, always had makeup on, and suddenly had more reasons to walk past his desk or schedule in-person meetings with him. We'd joke a lot, I'd roast him, be sarcastic, and he'd take it all with a smile. Our dynamic just felt easy, natural. I shared random life updates with him. We started building this quiet, effortless connection. I remember the day I told him I was leaving the company. He genuinely looked sad. But still, nothing too personal had been shared between us. Just moments, glances, smiles, inside jokes. And then one day, randomly, I asked him and another coworker if they were married. His response? Yes, not to each other, but yes. I just stood there, speechless. My jaw actually dropped. And no, I'm not saying it was his fault, but people usually mention their spouse at least once in casual conversation, considering we have spoken so much. He never did. Not once. And from our interactions, I don't know how to explain it, but it never felt purely platonic. Other co-workers would even comment about our chemistry, or how he had googly eyes for me. We'd always share these lingering glances, smile every time we walked past each other. You know when something feels more. This felt like more. After I found out he was married, I pulled back. I stopped walking over, stopped making the effort. But he randomly came around to talk about another project. I kept it strictly business. Around that time, another coworker expressed interest in me and gave me his number. I figured, why not? Sam's married, it's time to move on. But the more I talked to that new guy, the more I realized why I had liked Sam so much. He had all the traits I'd quietly hoped for in a guy. Calm demeanor, respectful, funny in his own awkward way, introverted but warm. He never took offense, never crossed boundaries, always made me feel safe and comfortable. The new guy had none of these traits. When my last days at the company came, I decided to just be present, soak in the goodbye, enjoy the moments, which means started talking to him again. I would even ask him how he met his wife and joking say I can't believe someone married him. Sam was at my farewell. TMI maybe, but having him there honestly made me feel so awkward. I was already emotional about leaving, and his presence just added to that weight. I started acting weird, like visibly nervous, fidgety, and probably gave off all kinds of ick without meaning to. I felt on the edge of tears the entire time, trying to hold it together. He even came over after the cake cutting, and kept trying to talk despite being interrupted multiple times by others. Eventually, we had a small chat off to the side still within view of others. He started by saying how nice I looked that day. First time he gave me a compliment about my appearance. Then he asked about my next steps. There was this strange silence toward the end, like we both wanted to say more but couldn't. Felt like there was a wall in between us. I shook his hand instead of hugging him. Just didn't feel right to offer anything more. As he walked away and kinda looked back real quick and started walking away, it felt like the end of something that never quite began. Later that evening, I read what he wrote in the card. He wrote the longest message in the card, saying work wouldn't be the same without me, as in it would be less interesting, that he loved my sense of humor, which I always teased him about was better than his, and there were more inside jokes, and wished me the best. That message meant more than I expected. I messaged him on Teams to thank him for a thoughtful message. He read it but never replied. Left it on scene. I used to think I had strong moral lines, that I would never, ever get emotionally involved with someone who's taken. Sam wasn't even someone people would describe as traditionally attractive or super charismatic. There was just something about him, this quiet pull, this energy that made me feel, something I can't even name. Looks mattered to me so much, and I was always against such huge age gap. Now none of that mattered. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if he ever saw me as more than a work friend, if he had feelings too, or if he just enjoyed the attention he was getting from me. I sometimes blame myself, sometimes wonder if he should have said something earlier about being married. But I never flirted. I tried hard to keep it platonic. Yet I still ended up falling, silently and hopelessly. Anyway, just needed to get that off my chest. Anytime I tried to talk to someone about it, they would say not to think too much about him, and he is married, and that is the truth. Would love to hear your thoughts. Story 6. I met this guy online over a year ago, and we quickly became fast friends and bonded over shared interests and similar lifestyles. He has a wife we met on Twitch where he plays games and streams them. He seemed like a real stand-up guy. However, over the last couple of months, girls ranging from 18 mid-30s. He's 48, his wife is 37. have come into the stream and started flirting with him, and he has proceeded to engage with it, and then go offline into a private chat room and cam with them and Jack. Off, I know, as he used a private offline room he used with me to talk about personal stuff like my grandpa dying to talk to these women, and forgot to kick me out while chatting with girls. Anyway, long story short, he messed around with this girl, told her he loved her, and wanted to do her and cuddle her on his lap in his marital bed. To make matters worse, he did this all while his now pregnant wife was sleeping across the hall with their 7-year-old son. That made my stomach turn and really angered me. He's also said disgusting remarks about his wife on various streams, such as she's crazy and unreasonable, that his son doesn't like when he shouts at her, that he was icing her out back in February, not sure why. He takes pictures of random women he finds attractive on his phone, so gross. He told me his female neighbor is also crazy but hot, and he thinks she wants to do him, and he spies on HR across the fence. He told me he plays a game while driving his son to pick up and drop off at school, that he looks at women there and asses them as attractive, and if he thinks they're hot he wants to slam them in his mind. He has a photo album of one of his exes from the 90s that he still keeps with pics of her and pics of her in bikinis, etc. The ex gave him the album. He also says he loves making people fall in love with him, and that he knows for a fact 10 and 11-year-old girls in his neighborhood find him attractive. I nearly puked at that comment. And he likes it, but swears he would never go there. When finishing up strams, he frequently says he's going to get something to eat and think about someone. That's clearly not his wife. It's so gross. I found his wife on social last week after he again entertained the same 18-year-old tramp he did back in March while his wife was sleeping with the son. I just feel so sorry and disgusted for her that her husband is disrespecting her boundaries and cyber cheating on her. Should I tell her the problem is she's 7 months pregnant and due in mid-August, and I don't want to cause her harm or stress in this critical stage, but I feel like she needs to know. What should I do? Also, I have limited proof apart from the fact that I can tell her specific details about her life that her husband has told me and some pictures from his streams. Story 7. Hi, so need a bit of help here. I was dating someone for a year, and I fell in love with him. We met through work. He is 10 years older than me and in his mid-30s. Towards the end of the relationship, he was acting so fucking strange. I saw too many red flags, and so I decided to ask around work about him. I'm an idiot for not doing this initially. Turns out he's married. He has been for the past 10 years, and he's been with his wife for 20. They have 4 little kids, and he's been cheating on her with me. I feel so heartbroken for myself but also for her. When I confronted him, he said she is the best wife, told me how she sacrificed her career, her life in their home country, and so many things for him. It is selfish and cruel what he's done to both me and her, so I have decided I want to tell her. It hurts that I was the other woman without knowing, but I'm also hurting for her. Funnily enough, once confronted, he said he never wants to see me again, and basically loves his wife. I blocked him around a week ago. Thing is, I can't in any possible way let her or him know it was me telling her. Needs to be anonymous, because I work with him, and I don't want any issues at work. I can't leave my job. I have just been promoted, and I can't financially afford to. He is a narcissist. If he finds out I told his wife, he will try to get me fired, or will make my life a living hell at work. So basically it's got to be anonymous, but there are a few issues. I have no proof. He was so smart. Plus, since I blocked him, I deleted all the chats, etc., because I didn't want to look at the messages. There's no way to get them back. And I don't want him to know it was me anyway, so even if I had the chats, I can't use any of them. So my first issue is gathering evidence. But I have a friend who is willing to add him on Snap, etc., to sort of catch him out again. She said she will send me proof, and I can use that to send to his wife. This friend is a model, so I know he will catch the bait. She's a good friend. 2. Also, I don't have his wife's contact details. I never even knew she existed, so I don't have her number, email, anything. All I know is her name, what she looks like. He showed me a pic, and their home address. He told me where he lives. I tried to find her socials or any online presence, but can't find anything. So I'm thinking to erase my friend's name from the chat on Snap, and just to mail it to his house. But then I don't want him to think that it was me. What if he only told his address to me, and not to other girls? If I had her number or email or something, even socials, it would work, but I genuinely have nothing but a home address. And if I send anonymous mail, what if he opens it and she never sees? I'm literally dealing with a very smart narcissist. Not only is he very educated, but he's very street smart. He is excellent at manipulating, he's emotionally and verbally abusive, he knows how to gaslight, and he basically love-bombed me, and then withdrew when I noticed more and more red flags. He thinks he's better than everyone. Please do help me. What I need is a solid plan. This is a very smart individual. There's so much to it. Please could you help me create a solid plan so I can do this properly? I know God will give me and her justice, but I just want to do the right thing.